looks like my Twitter got disconnected here.
Oh, that's the worst. I hate
I
that.
know.
No wonder I can't find it on there.
You might have to redo it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. Do that real quick.
That happened to me a couple weeks ago.
It's the worst, man.
Bunch of amateurs, you know?
I know.
There we go, man. Got it. All right. Welcome to another episode of Scotty Talks Philly Sports. I'm here with my good buddies, Phil, Tony. You know each of them. Both Phil from, All About the Birds, and Tony, of course, from Heat Ratio Sports, many others. You guys can go ahead, introduce you guys yourselves while I get this shared out.
What's up? This is a first. I'm excited, man, to be on a show with Tony and Scotty at the same time. I've done shows individually with you, but never together. So, looking forward to it. Plus, I missed all about the birds talk yesterday, traveling home from Florida. So I didn't get time to really, vent about yesterday.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be fun, man. It's the first time all three of us been together here in one show. And obviously, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of passionate fans, a lot of people checking in and chiming in. And I'm sure that I'm going to kind of ruffle some feathers a little bit because I always have a different agenda than a lot of people. But that's okay. That's what it's all about. And I welcome everybody's opinion, and I cannot wait to see what everybody feels. I'll tell you that.
And that's right, Tony. That's what you're here for. Hey, express yourself, man. We're not here to agree. That's for sure.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We will we'll go ahead and dive right in. We're going to do a quick, recap of the 2020 season, kind of touch on a few soft spots, just kind of go over this miserable season and kind of expectations for, next season. Start right out of the gate, caught a lot of heat this morning, the Eagles organization, Doug Peterson, for, integrity and throwing the game last night. Kind of just want to get you guys' thoughts, feelings on that. Where do you guys side with that? Do you think that there's a problem with that? How do you guys feel?
I actually think this is going to be one of the times that me and Tony semi-agree, because I know we disagree on a lot of other topics, but it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I'm always for you play to win the game and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Every team loses for draft picks in every single sport. There was no complaining about Jacksonville or the Jets trying to tank for, Trevor Lawrence. There's no talk about last year tanking for Tua. Go back to the Colts tanking for Andrew Luck. It happens every single year in sports. So what was different about it this year? It was the NFL putting us on Sunday Night Football. And if it wasn't that national stage on Sunday Night Football, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now about the quote-unquote purposely losing the game last night.
Nah, see, I completely disagree.
Oh, man, I thought we were locked on that.
Nah, man, listen, man. I was pissed. And if people said, I normally do not go live after a show just because I like to control my emotions. And I could not control them last night. I was up till 3:13 in the morning last night. I was so infuriated because, Phil, you're right. We do tank. We've seen it, right? And I get the game was flexed, but the problem is the way in which it happened. That's the issue. If Doug Peterson would have came out all week, if he would have came out early and speculated that, listen, we're going to put Nate Sudfeld in. And number one, Nate Sudfeld sucks. I don't understand why we need to see Nate Sudfeld. We know he's garbage. Okay, so at the end of the day, you took him out when you felt the game was getting out of grasp in the sense that you may win this game. And that's the problem. If you want to see Nate, put him in the first quarter. Let him start the game. Put him in at halftime. You specifically did, and that, to me, is why everybody's outraged.
Yeah, I mean, I was traveling, so I just watched the game through highlights and scrolling through Twitter after the game. I didn't get to see live in the moment part of it and all. But I had actually said I thought Nate Sudfeld was going to play in this game. I had a feeling that he was going to be activated for the first time. And honestly, what do you expect out of him? I mean, the guy hasn't played a meaningful football snap in a year and a half, 2 years, who knows, ever. And, you say he's not a good quarterback, Tony. I mean, we had Ron Jaworski on All About the Birds before the season started, and I asked him about Nate Sudfeld, and he was gleaming about how great Nate Sudfeld is. And I literally had to sit there and look at the screen and be like, really? Like, I don't want to question Ron Jaworski, Jaw,
Come on, Ron.
but man, what was he seeing in that kid?
Ron, well, listen, I love Jaws, but he did own half of an arena league or something, didn't he? So maybe his visions were a little jaded since the time he's played. I don't know.
No, man, I get it. I guess the way I look at it, I just don't think it's like a national news thing. If you have your personal agendas against it, like, maybe if, Tony, you want to see Jalen Hurts finish that game, see if he can win that game against Washington. That's more of a personal thing rather than, like the national media that is like attacking Doug Peterson for destroying the game. I do agree to a sense. I think if you're going to make that choice, you do it at halftime. I think he made it kind of obvious once you got to the fourth quarter. It's like, oh, we might win this game. Let's get Jalen Hurts out of there, before he really goes and wins the game. So I see it from that standpoint, but I just don't think it's that big a deal. I think it slides by all the time, but because it was on Sunday Night Football, it's the Eagles, it's Philadelphia, it's just this big thing.
You had all the Giants players tweeting out all night long, come on, what's going on. So there's even more national attention coming out with all that kind of, content and all. I don't know.
Different situation, man. It's a different situation. I mean, listen, honestly, it's a completely different situation. I mean, everybody keeps talking about, like, you mentioned Jacksonville. People talked about Pittsburgh, right? Start Mason Rudolph. But the thing is, they let everybody know going into that game. Right, and that's my biggest issue. They let everybody know. This was a poor judgment by Doug Peterson, who just acted irrationally, just like we always expect him to do, because he should not be a head coach right now. I'm sorry, he shouldn't be. And I would be. Listen, a lot of people. Joe Judge came out, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, good." I agree with Joe Judge, because I'll tell you what, and I said this, and I'm sorry I'm long-winded, but last night I specifically spoke to I interviewed Malik Jackson 3 weeks ago, and if you would listen to Malik, his authenticity about how hard this year has been with the COVID thing, with the regulations, not seeing your family, we all understand it, right? They went through double what we normally go through. So to have that, which is what Joe Judge was saying, it's a complete disrespect. And you got a guy like Jason Kelce that just came out 2 weeks ago saying we play every game like it's our last, and then that happens. There's a domino effect to what happened, man, and we're gonna get into that later.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that one part. It's just another bad decision from Doug Peterson. Not necessarily the decision of wanting to lose the game, but how he handled it.
Yeah.
And, you said it, one of many poor decisions. I mean,
good point.
I mean, the fact that he hasn't been fired yet, I mean, we're going to get into this in a minute, or Jeffrey Lurie hasn't made – I mean, it boggles my mind, because another topic to talk about is Jalen Hurts. You said also, you want – Scotty, you want to see him if he can win that game. There's question marks still on Jalen Hurts. Yeah. If he can lead a comeback there, or – completely fall apart, you get more answers. Pulling him out in the middle of the third quarter, you don't have any answer on what he's made up of in a tight game like that in a division rival.
The only reason I'm okay taking Jalen Hurts out there, and I think I would have done it at halftime if I was going to do it, the only reason is because the rest of the starters weren't out there. He was playing with, third stringers. So, what's the point of putting him out there as a rookie with some guys that aren't going to help him out any? That's the only reason that I really wouldn't have wanted to see him in the second half. Otherwise, you do want to see him play. He is a rookie. He is your second string quarterback as of right now. And you want to see what he's got going into the next season, especially with this rocky relationship with Carson Wentz that we will definitely get into here soon. Got Adam Cease checking in. What's up, Adam?
What's up, Adam, my boy?
What's up, Al?
But yeah, man. So we'll go ahead. We'll get into the next segment. Takeaways from the press conference today. I'm not sure, how much of that you guys actually saw. I know, Phil, you were working today, so I don't know if you got to
keep up with as best I can.
Yeah, I know you did. I'm just gonna throw a couple of the comments, from Howie's presser out there, and you guys can kind of just bounce them around. So they started out, of course, they asked him about the trade, the trade rumor of Carson Wentz requesting a trade. He completely, kind of ignores the question, steps around it. Can't imagine Carson not here. He's like a finger on my hand. And then he even walked back the QB factory comment and said he regretted it. I thought that was truly embarrassing to have to do that. And it's almost like Jeffrey Lurie was like, you need to walk that back, like in front of the fans. Walk that back right now. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, and he also mentioned another thing that makes me think of Jeff Lurie was he mentioned that he wanted to come out and face the fans. He wasn't going to hide. And they had Doug, they had Howie there to face the noise. And it was really just Howie getting reamed out. It wasn't really Doug. He didn't get too many questions. How did you guys feel about that press conference today? What are your thoughts with Howie? I mean, I know you guys are all ready.
Tony, you go first. Hey,
like Howie just played into everything that I expect him to be. Like that little weasel, that little school kid who gets beat up every single day. Did you hear his voice cracking when he was apologizing? Like he wanted to cry, right? I mean, come on, Howie. Seriously. And then you are going to sit there and you're going to tell us that you have hits for draft. Like, what draft picks have you had a lot of hits on? I'm curious to what exactly he's talking about. To be honest with you, but it just number one, the way it was formulated. Number one, I think it was wrong to have him and Doug on screen where 14. I think it was Jeff McClain tweeted out 14 out of 17 questions went to Howie. Then Doug looks like a buffoon. Sitting there, right? Then why did they keep going to Doug? I actually kind of felt bad for Doug a little bit, and I don't even like Doug. I'm like, this poor bastard is sitting there. He has no idea what to do, and nobody's asking him anything. And the first time he talks, the audio's all screwed up.
They can't hear him.
I thought that was like, you got to be kidding me, man. What a train wreck. Al says it right. It was Al.
It was a
train wreck, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to add anything else to it because you hit every nail on the head there with that. Did you guys see the picture that was circulating? Someone took a screenshot at the moment when Doug's looking so pissed off and just like head down, and Howie's got this little, I'm okay. Daddy said I can have my job for one more year. That picture pretty much summed up everything. When has there ever been in the last 10 or 15 years that the head coach and the GM have come out literally the morning after the season ended to give their end of season press conference? First off, together, let alone separately, this quickly.
Right.
Never. Because these guys were already told, look, whatever, I guess the season's a wash. And I think the press conference is more indictment on Jeffrey Lurie and how he's just accepting this no matter what. If the last 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks or 3, 4, 5, 6 years weren't enough, last night should have been enough to say Doug out or Howie out. So, I mean, it's pathetic. It's a train wreck. It's humorous, as Adam says. It really is. We become a laughing stock in the league, basically, this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you even hear the part, it's like he was trying to he was just basically walking back everything he's done since 2017, basically trying to take all the accountability. He mentioned change is necessary, change is inevitable. Mentioned how he was, playing bad cop to Zach Ertz with the contract negotiation. I mean, if Zach Ertz is the guy you picked to finally have a backbone, and so be it. I mean, he had to do it at some point and let go of this like Super Bowl memory, you know what I mean? And I thought that's another thing that really bothered me about the press conference was that he admitted that he was like in La La Land over the Super Bowl team. I mean, he admitted that he gave these contracts, while he's like daydreaming over the Super Bowl. He admitted that he shouldn't have done that with certain players. And I thought, it was just a total apology. And rightfully so, I guess, 4-win team this year, nothing like I expected. But yeah, I guess the other thing I wanted to ask you about, what did you think of, the comments about the Wentz trade, the trade request? How did you guys feel about them? I mean, it's just so ridiculous that they're trying to, hide that. But what else are they supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, that pretty much comes out. What are they supposed to do? These rumors are out there. Yeah. It's obvious you cannot go into next season if you want some form of stability in your locker room with both these guys here. because no matter what, whoever wins the starting job, the second a bad game happens, there's going to be the whispers of another change at quarterback. And again, you did Hurts no service by pulling him from the game yesterday. You did Carson Wentz no good all year long, putting a bad team around him and setting him up for failure. So I mean, you're really in a tough spot there where the rumors, you won't accept that they're real as a GM, but they're there, and maybe he could have addressed them a little bit better, in the press conference.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, it's one of those things. And what do you expect him to say? He's not going to come out and say, "Oh yeah, we're going to look to trade Carson Wentz." Obviously, he's not going to show his hand. But we all understand. We all get what's happening here, right? And we could say, and I've said this from day one, and I could continue to stick to my gut. I still think Jalen Hurts is Doug's guy. I still think it's his guy. And honestly, I don't know what it is, but him and Carson just cannot get a connection. They just can't. So, it's very, it's confusing when you look at an 11-2 record for backup quarterbacks under Doug Peterson. And the system looks completely different. And it's not just Jalen Hurts. It looked different with Nick Foles. Right, so it looked completely different, right?
It didn't look different with Nate Sudfeld, though.
Well, you got two glove Nate. He didn't need a new glove last night or something. That the haircut maybe would have helped him out. But
oh my goodness!
I mean, listen, it's inevitable that Carson Wentz. I know everybody was all mad about, let me give a shout out to Chris Mortensen, who got another guy who's going through some major medical issues, and he's still out there grinding. One of the best in the business, right? One of the best in the business. So, I really like the guy. And when he came out and said fractured, everybody was, how does he know? Come on, man. These guys, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Yeah. And that last image of Kelsey, Ertz, and Wentz says it all. 3 guys who aren't going to be here next year. Jason Kelsey pondered retirement before this year, played on one arm this year, and now he went through that debacle. He's not coming back. Zach Ertz not coming back. Carson Wentz not coming back. That's why all 3 of them were on the field together at the end.
Yeah. And I did just want to point out one thing. I know Phil mentioned, Jalen Hurts when he got benched last night. I did see some videos floating around of Jalen Hurts on the sidelines. He was kind of pissed off, that he got taken out. There was. I was going to ask
you guys about that because not watching the game, I didn't know if the videos I saw on Twitter were taken out of context or if that happened right after he was taken out of the game.
Yeah, no, he was talking to some teammates. He definitely said that's BS.
Yep.
We just scored, bro, something like that. So that was even right there. It's. That I'd like to see that from Jalen Hurts, but that does make you think like, man, Doug, what are you doing there? Let this guy grind it out. He's a competitive guy. Don't break that nature. So that's another standpoint from, was it right or not last night, what was done. Obviously, I'm happy we got the 6th pick. I think when you look at it in hindsight, it kind of softens that. But, overall, it wasn't a very good look when you wake up this morning and just see it all over the place. Hall of Famers questioning you. It just not a good way to end the season altogether. I mean, we've already been, the talk of the town, the ultimate shit show. So, we just ended it on the highest note possible as far as, or I should say lowest. But
the highest of lows.
Yes. To say the least. So I kind of, we'll take a segue into what actually went down this season. 5 biggest disappointments. I think we'll agree on some of these. I think, a few of these are pretty easy. You don't have to have 5. We can kind of just go bounce off of each other here. But, the elephant in the room, Carson Wentz and his play, I mean, that has to be the biggest disappointment for me, at least. And I didn't expect to see that from him. And some of those games, if he just doesn't play that bad, we can blame the coaching. We can blame, other players, the offensive line. If he just doesn't turn the ball over some of those games, we win them. And, it was sad to see him go down that dark road. What was some of the more disappointing moments for you guys or disappointing players, whatever it may be?
I mean, you mentioned Carson. Obviously, I think all 3 of us, that would be number one. Nobody could have foreseen that. I'm going to say because, number one, he was he proved me dead wrong was Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders to me, and again, it might have been Phil. Phil, you were one of the guys maybe, but when we did our preseason fantasy stuff on the Fantasy Firebox, I was picking Miles Sanders to be a top 5 running back. And everybody told me, yo, you don't understand. It's Doug. He's not going to give him the ball enough. And I'm like, no, he's going to Deuce knows this is a bell cow back. And I know he had some injuries, but I know this guy can do it. And I guess it's like a dual-edged sword. I was disappointed the way they used him, and I was disappointed at his production because I really thought that was the guy to finally give us that LaShawn McCoy style of running, right? It was that guy that we could actually lean on. And he just floundered the opportunity. So hopefully there's better roads ahead in 2021. But that was one of my most important players from this year.
And, it didn't help that, Deuce Staley comes out before the season saying that he's going to be this feature back, this ball hog back, he's the next CMC, all of this noise. I mean, I was expecting the same thing obviously I have my doubts with Doug in the run game, of course, understandably. I thought that we had figured it out. The run game helps the quarterback, right? I thought we had figured that out, down the stretch last season, and we come out, totally went away. Well, I guess he didn't play that first game, but, totally went away from him down the stretch. Not many games. I don't know if he touched 20 carries this season.
One game, I think it was the Cincinnati game. He had 21 touches, 20 or 21 carries.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't get that either. Go ahead, Phil.
I mean, it's funny you bring up Deuce, and maybe Deuce's voice isn't heard enough in that coaching room because you said Deuce was all hyping up Miles Sanders and all, but that was not the name I was getting at. But I mean, maybe Deuce is either his voice isn't heard enough, or maybe he's not this superstar coaching candidate that everyone thinks he is. How many job interviews has he been on outside of Philadelphia? How many requests is he getting to be head coaching candidates anywhere else? So I've been kind of hyping the Deuce Staley overrated train for a few years now because if he was such a great coaching candidate, he would have moved on by now from just being a running back guy. So, it's an unpopular opinion. I love Deuce. He was a great player here. I appreciate everything he's done for the city, but really, what has he done as a coach?
I agree.
Yeah.
So, I wrote down, when you're saying disappointing names, I wrote down 15, 20 names here. So I can go any other. I pulled Keith to get 4 names on the good list, you know what I mean? But, I know we've talked about Doug and Jeffrey Lurie and Howie, but I really got to say it's mostly Howie Roseman's is the disappointment. And we can stick to running backs if you want to by saying that Boston Scott and Corey Clement were good backup running backs to have and not addressing that situation, before the season started. We all knew that there was issues there. Well, some people thought, Boston Scott was the next Darren Sproles. I did not. Corey Clement, I said 100 times before the season, he's never healthy. He had one good Super Bowl game, and that was it. You relied on those guys as your returners. Our special teams was atrocious. He did not address the wide receiver position properly. The offensive line, giving into JP, there's a million things. I got the contract for Jake Elliott and Javon Hargrave, all these mistakes that Howie Roseman made, and we keep getting this disappointment from him year in and year out. So I don't think there is a bigger disappointment this year than Howie Roseman. Problem is, we're probably going to have the same conversation next year that he is a disappointment again. So it's tough to go there.
No, you're right. And here's a problem too when you think about that is because I kind of indirectly about 3 weeks ago defended Howie Roseman and not the guy, but what he was trying to do. Because if you look at it and you look for the people that said they never gave Carson Wentz any weapons, that's wrong. They did try to build for Carson Wentz. Yeah. The problem is they picked all the wrong guys.
Yeah. Exactly. I've heard that philosophy used.
Right. So if you do that year after year, that means you're not good at identifying talent, which means you shouldn't have a job.
Right?
Think about it. It's a track record. You have one bad offseason, it's an anomaly. When you do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seasons in a row, when you have one, well now 2 because Miles Sanders got named to the Pro Bowl, 2 Pro Bowlers in the last 7 years, that's a track record. That's not an anomaly. And that's where the problem is.
No, I'm with you. And a lot of people were taking us back to Chip Kelly. And I mentioned this earlier. Guess what? Last time I checked, Chip Kelly when he was in charge, drafted Lane Johnson and Zach Ertz. So, Howie Roseman said, he's the one who put Baby in the corner, right? And we were all, we need Howie back. We need Howie back. Well, who we at? That 2017 draft was atrocious. And he was actually in the press conference talking about how he thought the roster was great in 2017. There's not one guy left from that draft, Derek Barnett. That's it. One guy. I mean, how can you sit up there and lie like that? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And we can go down the list. I think Phil made the greatest point there is Howie is responsible for all the disappointments. So it's I was going to name Jalen Reagor. I thought we would see more out of him. Obviously injuries. Howie picked him. We saw Justin Jefferson go for 1,400 yards this year. We can ignore it all we want. We can have all the confidence in the world in Jalen Reagor, but that happened. That did happen. And Doug Peterson, sure. I mean, he kind of made his own bed there. And is it a disappointment when you kind of saw you've seen this the last 2 years, even the 3 years, slow starts. I mean, that's Doug Peterson, and then we're clawing our ways back, down the stretch. So is he a disappointment when he's just the same coach? I mean, I don't know. He's playing the hand he was dealt as far as the roster. Of course, the injuries, Al mentioned it earlier, the injuries once again, but this seems like a recurring thing. You're bringing back an aging roster. There's going to be injuries. You're relying on Alshon and Deshaun Jackson. D-Jax, we can say he was disappointed, but was he? I mean, did we expect to see more from him? He's an exciting guy. Like, we love him for what he's done. But
what, 33, 34 years old?
He's done for me lately, you know what I mean? He's not that guy anymore. He's that guy when he plays, but he never plays. So, relying on guys like that, I thought Zach Ertz, I thought he would come out with a fire, playing, if he knew he wasn't getting a contract, I thought he would be playing for his new team at this point, trying to play hard. Showcase. No, he was a no-show all season, with all due respect, So the list goes on. I think you guys hit it on the head.
I want to bring up. I know you want to move on to the next segment, but
go ahead.
That's a disappointment to me, and I really, with this disconnect between the front office and the coaching staff, I'm not really sure anymore who makes the decision on position coaches. But every position coach, just about up and down the board, is a disappointment to me.
Yeah.
Deuce at the running back coach. You got Dave Pip and Preston Taylor, special teams, and quarterback coach. I'll even throw, and I took heat early in the year. Some people are starting to come around now on it, that Jeff Stoutland has been a disappointment. Outside of Jordan Mailata, who did he develop on our offensive line this year? Who did he help get better this year? Pryor stepped backwards. We saw a lot of fill-ins this year. He didn't really solve any of the issues this year on that offensive line. He did get Jordan Mailata to a pretty solid point pretty early on in his career. But, I mean, all these coaches, I don't even know who the wide receiver coach is anymore.
Aaron Moorhead
got developed this year, took steps forward. The positional coaching is atrocious, and they're the guys that are supposed to be developing these guys, and I think they need to be held accountable as well.
Yeah, I mean, and Nate Herbig, he performed well towards the beginning of the season. Then they started throwing him everywhere. Jack Driscoll performed well at the beginning, started throwing him everywhere. So, you're mixing these guys on the offensive line, throwing them on each side like it's no, imagine how these rookies feel. I mean, they're going all over the place. You talk about Andre Dillard, who's supposed to be the left tackle. They moved him to right. I mean, there's just mishaps all over the place around here. And, you brought up the offensive line. That's where we can go into, the biggest surprises. These can be good or bad, in 2020. Jordan Mailata, I mean, that was a good surprise. You're hoping he's not, the next Big V. I've seen the comparisons to Big V. You're hoping that maybe, just maybe, he can be a staple at that left tackle. We still got Andre Dillard there. So I thought that was a nice surprise. Do we still know, is he a starter? Do we know that for sure? To be determined. But, it was nice to see a little bit of something out of him. What do you guys have on the board there?
No, I agree. I mean, listen, here's a kid who's just a behemoth, a monster of a man, right? And if you can get him to play, and I kind of disagree with Phil. I think Stoutland did a really good job this year because, unfortunately, you can only coach up talent. And guys have to have an ounce of talent, and some of the guys I mean, these were like technically like third string guys. I mean, Scotty, you mentioned about Andre Dillard. We don't even know if Andre Dillard is a starting left tackle.
Yeah.
Right? He's already has the mental midget kind of psyche like Carson Wentz, and that's a problem. This is the guy that was upset. Very much so in the bubble, can't get the plays. That's an issue. So this entire offensive line has to be rebuilt. Except for Lane Johnson, right? And Brandon Brooks. Listen, the dude's a monster. We expect him to just come back. But besides those two positions, everything's up. Because like we said, I don't think Kelsey's coming back. I don't – didn't we hear – am I wrong? But do I remember us getting told Matt Pryor was like looking great last year? Oh, this guy – like, what happened? He just fall off a truck? The dude can't play. He's like a human turnstile. I don't understand. Like, he couldn't stop anybody. I mean, it's very it's very demoralizing.
You say you got to have the talent though, but some of that does have to come back on the position coach getting these guys ready week in and week out. The film study, the side training when you're not running your 11-on-11 drills in practice. There's got to be some accountability. And I didn't want to just point out Jeff Stoutland.
No,
it's a name that everybody loves. Everybody holds him up on this high pedestal and all. But every position that has let us down this year, these position coaches have to be held accountable.
No, you're right. And one point to that, I would say also is to kind of agree with you too, is say, Jeff Stoutland's getting up there in age too. He's been around a long time. Sometimes, we've seen that with Andy Reid and that staff. And sometimes the communication just doesn't get through to these young players. You got to get some young blood. And I think that's what I'm hoping for. Like guys like Marty Morningweg, who still have a job on his staff. Like, why? Please tell me. Andrew Biner, is that his name? Who is that? Right, exactly. I mean, these guys, we don't even know what they do. There has to be accountability, but unfortunately, looks like everybody's going to be coming back.
Yeah.
One big party.
Woohoo! Cheers to that.
Wow.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't it exciting? I think you guys hit the nail on the head there. Another one I wanted to bring up, of course, we saw some things out of Alex Singleton. I thought that was pretty exciting. Is he the answer at linebacker? I don't know if I'm going that far. He has his struggles in coverage, but he at least is somebody that you could pair with some talent there. He's a hard worker, grinder type of guy. Maybe, with a guy like Micah Parsons, if you want to we won't use our pick on him, but just for example, if you wanted to place some talent at that position, because you mentioned it, Tony, on the offensive line, the youth and the young, and even in the coaching staff, but on that defense, we have little to no talent outside of that defensive line. I mean, every single position outside of Slay in that defensive line should probably be replaced. I mean, I love Rodney McLeod. I thought he played with heart out there. I thought he played very well. Just tore his ACL, wish him the best, but that's not a good look, if on a guy with an expiring contract. Jalen Mills, I know, your boy Johnny loved Jalen Mills this year.
We have been battling on that one.
Hey, Jalen Mills, I love the confidence, and, he played better this season, but that's not a guy that you can rely on back there. He's a guy that you can have beside a Malcolm Jenkins or beside somebody that can lead a defense or be that talented guy. But that's what I mean. We don't have any talent on the defense. And, we got to invest there, whether it's a second cornerback. We got to invest in this defense with some young talent. I know we went out and drafted Davion Taylor. You know what I mean? We got to use an early round draft pick on some defensive talent, whether it's the first or second round pick. We have to do something there to turn this over. But, Alex Singleton, he did stand out in the defense. Josh Sweat was another guy that I thought was a nice surprise. But, it's very far few and in between there. Hurts, I thought, was a pleasant surprise as well. I know, kind of down the stretch, he kind of hindered himself. But, that spark coming out of the gate against New Orleans, he played really well. He was moving the ball at least. He did struggle with turnovers a little bit down the stretch. But overall, I did like what I saw from him. Obviously, you want him to be better. But, the same way I talk about Carson Wentz, you can. That is not a fair playing field to even measure these quarterbacks, especially a rookie quarterback. But, overall, I was surprised. It hurts the guy. I don't know. But I was pleasantly surprised with the way Hurts could actually throw the ball, his touch on the football. What else? Did you guys have any other surprises there?
I know Tony knows I'm a big Carson Wentz guy. I love my Carson Wentz. But the thing is, I actually was not surprised by Jalen Hurts because I expected really good quarterback play from – I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. And in another situation, I would have been rooting him on nonstop. But him and Carson were both put into a really sticky situation here. And that's not either their faults. I mean, whatever you want to say about Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts, the mental makeup of it and all. But Jalen Hurts, I expect Jalen Hurts to be a starter in this league. No doubt about it. And if he went to a bad team, he would have been starting right away in this season. So it does not surprise me at all. Did I see enough to move forward next year with him? Well, if we're not a Super Bowl contending team, sure. Go ahead, use him, let him develop next year. But if you're expecting to contend next year, then obviously you can't have confidence going into the year with him. But yeah, I expect great things from Jalen Hurts, whether it's with the Eagles or another team going forward, because I'm not surprised there at all.
No, I agree with you, Phil. And to get back, to the defense just for 1 second, there's, I went through a lot of Twitter beef, I'll call it. And a lot of, when, I was talking about trading up assets for these four guys. And these are four defensive guys that are under the age of 26 years old, that all four of them had tremendous impacts. Jamal Adams, Jalen Ramsey, Minkah Fitzpatrick, and Leonard Williams. Every single one of those guys could have done us justice on this team. And again, for all these people that want to hold on to these draft picks, I will trade any one of my draft picks for an established guy any day of the week, because especially on this team, we see what can happen, right? We see what can happen. And Phil, you made a great point that I didn't even think about, because I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. Even though I don't hate on Carson, I just don't. I think he needs to go somewhere else.
Wrong choice of terms there. I just know you battle a lot of people, including me, on Carson Wentz.
No, you're right. You're right. And I was one of the same guys that came out and said I think he should have been afforded the opportunity to start again. Okay, that was my give him a break and let him come back. That's the way I thought about it. But you made a great point. If this team is as torn down as we think it's going to be, we're not going to be competitive for the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah, if that's the case, then it almost makes perfect sense to move on with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you say it's crazy. If we're not going to do like a retool per se and go for it again next year, you think about it, Washington is a quarterback away from being a 10-12 win team. The Giants, they might be 2 or 3 more players, but they're on the up, okay? Dallas still has, when Dak comes back, if he comes back healthy, still an unstoppable offense with Dak at the helm. So this is a bad division right this second, but it's 1 or 2 good moves by those other teams away from us being the bottom feeder for a long time. So if you're going to not contend next year, start the rebuild per se now, and let's develop Jalen Hurts. So in 4 years, when he's 26, 27 years old, we're ready to contend.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and I think that's the most logical point. When you take your emotions, you take all your preconceptions away of, I know you can relate to this, Phil, and you too, Tony. I thought that Wentz was this, MVP caliber guy, this top 10 talent, top 5 talent. And, and I still believe in him. I don't mean it like that, like I've given up on him or anything like that. I do. I think he might just need a fresh change of scenery for him and to revamp him. To go through 2 QB drama situations like this, it's a little ridiculous for the Eagles and for Carson Wentz to deal with that. But then on the more logical side, outside of emotions and all of that jazz, the more logical side, you get rid of that contract for 2022 season. You go into that free agency. You have some money there that you can actually spend and rejuvenate for that 2022 season. And I think that's the way you have to look at it. I think next year you take what you get and you see what Jalen Hurts has. if it's a 6-7 win season, so be it. That's a good year for a guy who's getting his first season full of starts. You take that year to rebuild and you invest in some talent, get some guys. And that's the thing. It's like, we can do all of this with Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, and we can get it right with Jalen Hurts, and how he can still screw it up over the next 1 to 2 years with these.
I was running like 9 comments in my head. That summed up all the comments that were rolling through my head.
As I talked through it, I was like, man, no, Howie's going to screw that up too. No, that won't work. You know what I mean? Like, so as good as that sounds, I don't know if that will really work, but I mean, it's the most logical, I would say.
No, you're right. You're right.
That's kind of the next segment I was going to get into. Is it Wentz? Is it Hurts? Is it both? Is it neither? Do you draft a quarterback? You guys kind of already answered there as far as, between Hurts or Wentz. How do you feel? Do you think the Eagles would invest another draft pick in a quarterback in the first round this year? What is the read on the room?
That's a different question.
No way.
You don't think Howie could make that mistake? You never know.
No. I continue to think. No, I know, but I do. I think Jalen's their guy. I think they're fully invested in Jalen 100%. I think that they know the mistakes they have made, have been a problem. And I think what you do, I'm going to ruffle some feathers here. I am, but I say you make the call right now, and you start talking to Cam Newton, and you say, hey, Cam, listen, would you be willing to come to this team as a backup and as a mentor to a kid who has your kind of speed? He's strong. Because that's the difference with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts isn't just, he's not to it. He's like, this kid is strong. He deadlifted 600 pounds. Right? And the one thing we know about Cam Newton, he may not have the arm strength anymore, but he's one of the strongest quarterbacks we've ever seen. Ron Rivera used him as a linebacker, in that offense. He was running out blocks. So you bring a guy like that to me in as a backup. I think going to New England, Cam got grounded this year a little bit and said, okay, I know I may not be a starter in this league anymore, but I think he's willing to help somebody. And I think to me, that's the marriage made in heaven, in my opinion. And then you go and you draft I would say linebacker, but we all know they're never going to ever, right? I hope if they get it right, if they get a wide receiver, I hope they get it right. I don't know. But I think that's how you rebuild. I do. And that gives you the opportunity. But you said 2022. I'm looking at 2023. I think you're a couple years away. You are. And Scotty, you said it right. Take what you can get, right? You make your draft wisely. Use your picks wisely. Sign some free agents that aren't 35 years old and put them down, right? That's what you have to do. Kind of hold this team somehow, man. Get some new blood in here and the coaching staff as well.
Yeah, I say they don't draft a quarterback in the first round, definitely. Obviously, they're going to – personally, I would draft best available. If Chase is off the board, whether it's Surtain, whoever the cornerback or wide receiver, or if Micah Parsons is the best available, you take one of those 3 people. That's what you do. I like the Cam idea. I had 2 other names already written down because I say you take 2 steps back, you take the cap hit, you trade Carson for whatever you have to trade him for, get as many picks as you can for him, no matter what they are. You keep building that young talent, and you bring in a backup quarterback. And you said Cam, and that kind of made me change my mind because I had written down Tyrod Taylor because he's a very similar player. He's already used to being that bench roll guy already.
True.
Hopefully our medical staff won't injure him like the San Diego's did.
Wow.
That was awful, awful story. So I wrote down him. I don't think Jacoby Brissett will be a backup next year, but he's a free agent as well. Another guy that runs really well. So you want to draft or sign a backup that
Nick
plays
Foles.
What? Yeah, no. That
come in and ruin
Howie thing to do. Total Howie thing there.
Oh,
100%.
man.
But yeah, I mean there's no way Howie could screw this first round pick up at number 6. The only way Howie could screw this pick up, and I will say this.
Knock on wood, man.
I know, knock on wood. When you're in the top 5-6 guys are most of the time can't miss players. Okay? But there's a lot of rumors that you trade back to 9, 10, 11. Then you get into a position where there's some question marks. Are they going to be that impact Pro Bowl player right away? And then that's where you start out thinking yourself, well, I'm at 10 now. Let me draft. I don't want to miss this guy out or whatever. Then he starts reaching potentially at 10 or 11 if he trades back. So as long as he stays at 6, he will get a stud. And hopefully he doesn't screw it up.
Yeah, to say the least. And we can kind of talk about that draft pick a little bit. You guys have already mentioned what you'd like them to do with it, obviously. I did see, of course, PFF, that clickbait material. They had the Eagles selecting Trey Lance with that 6th pick. And Trey Lance, he goes to the same school that Carson did, right?
Yep.
Like, why do they do this to us? I mean, when I saw that, it just immediately made me think, like, man, I hope Howie doesn't even see this to even ponder the idea of it. I'm really hoping, we invest in the defense. I think the wide receiver, while I think Jamar Chase and Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, I think these guys are amazing. I think they're going to be studs no matter what. But with that being said, we have not had our good experiences with wide receivers. We just dipped in the first round last year. Maybe go that way in the second round, get some second round talent at wide receiver. Invest in that defense, or, if somehow that Penny Sewell falls down there. I mean, from what I'm watching and what I'm hearing about him, he could be that generational tackle. So I think if you see a guy like that for the offensive line, regardless of what you have going on, he would be the best available at 6. So, you just hope that they take the obvious pick when it occurs, because no matter who's drafted before there's going to be a guy or two that's completely obvious that we're all sitting there like, come on, please, like, come on. And, just do not select outside of those names, man. It's really not that hard once you get up into the top of the draft.
I took a beating for saying use that pick with it on an offensive lineman. If Seals, I can't even say his name, if he's there. I mean, I took an absolute beating for that. But if Chase isn't there, if you're not going to draft a safe or cornerback or a linebacker, I mean, if he's there, I mean, yeah, you take him and you figure out Dillard and Mailata later. You don't worry about them. You've got yourself a left tackle there.
I agree. As much as I seen Al, because I know and I know I feel you, Al. We can't pass another star wide receiver. I get it, but unfortunately, the biggest percentage of positive production in the first round is, especially the top 10, is offensive defensive line. It just is. They're you look at the past drafts, and they're the guys that hit. So if you have an opportunity to get a generational defensive lineman or offensive lineman, you have to take it. You just have to. And then maybe you could trade your way back into the first round and get a really good wide receiver.
Are you like reading my notes here? Because I tweeted that out today. I wrote it down on my notes.
All about the trenches, Phil. It's all about the trenches, man. That's how you win.
I agree with you.
That's how you win.
Yeah, I think people, they get misconstrued, by Lane Johnson. Even Mailata this year, it's some of that recency bias. You're not giving up on Penny Sewell for Jordan Mailata. That's not happening. You know what I mean? If that's going to be your left tackle for life right there. That's going to be Jalen Hurts' best friend if Hurts is your guy. So, in an offense that doesn't seem to get wide receivers involved anyways, it seems like the offensive line is more important. I mean, we saw it this season, how important the offensive line was. If it can't go, then nothing can go. You know what I mean? So I think once Doug, and, maybe it'll take this next season for Doug to get fired if he doesn't, comprehend what works for this team, running the football. He seemed to run it a little bit more with Jalen Hurts. You hope that he keeps that trend, build in the trenches like you guys said. That's how we won the Super Bowl. That's literally how we won the Super Bowl. We had one of the best offensive lines and we had one of the best defensive lines. Everywhere else, we just filled in holes. And that's how we won the Super Bowl, with veteran guys filling in holes. So, if he falls to 6, he's not going to. I don't believe that he will. There's too many young quarterbacks in front of us that they're going to marry them two together. So I don't see it happening. And I feel kind of the same about Jamar Chase. I think he's another QB best friend, and he probably won't make it to us with those young quarterback teams in front of us. So, I'm with you guys. I just hope we take any of the guys that we named tonight, aside from Trey Lance, any of those guys, Surtain, Farley, any talent that we can get on the defensive end and especially in the trenches. We kind of touched on this already throughout the show. What's up with the Eagles, man? What's up with Jeffrey Lurie keeping Howie, keeping Doug after all of this, the major changes, Jim Schwartz stepping down out of everybody? You know what I mean? As much as I haven't been a fan of Jim Schwartz, I'm sure you guys, will know that, but he wasn't the worst of our issues, I don't think, this season. You know what I mean? So felt like he was kind of a scapegoat. How do you guys feel, about both of those guys coming back? Did you think one or the other should have went? Did you think both should have went? Where are you guys at with that?
Okay, Phil, I'll let you go first.
Well, Jim Schwartz, I am not a fan of. I have not been a fan of. Okay, if we don't win that Super Bowl, he is gone after that Super Bowl. Giving up the 600 yards there. He is the first defensive coordinator to give up 500 yards or more in back-to-back games in Eagles history. Okay, and I know he's got his he had a makeshift talent on that defense, all the injuries and everything else. But Jeffrey Lurie, the reason why he keeps these people around, and I brought this point up earlier in the week, if you think about it, he's owned the team since what, 95, 96, whatever it was, the Ray Rhodes year. How many GMs has he had here? Joe Banner, Howie Roseman. You sprinkle in the couple years at Andy Reid, you still had a GM, but Andy Reid was making the player personnel decisions. You sprinkle in the year that Chip Kelly was in charge. Jeffrey Lurie, it's not just loyalty, it's comfortability as well. He just is so stick to those two guys. I mean, it was basically Joe Banner, and Joe Banner's protege has been the only two GMs for almost the entire time he has owned the team. So the thought that he might move on from Howie Roseman at some point is almost impossible to imagine, because why would he? It's back to the word track record. It's his track record to stick to these guys. So I'm not surprised Jim Schwartz is the one falling on the sword. And I think other people will fall on the sword, whether it's Dave Phipp or Press Taylor or somebody else too. But outside of that, I'm not surprised, because this is what Jeffrey Lurie does.
I agree. Through my rant last night, I mentioned, I kind of exactly to parlay on your point, Phil, is, we had Andy Reid for so many years, and Jeffrey Lurie loved Andy Reid. It was such a tough decision for him to get rid of Andy Reid. And he finally stepped out of his comfort zone, and he went with the nice, shiny toy in Chip Kelly, right? He said, you know what? This isn't my comfort zone, but I'm going to try it. And he gave all the power to Chip, and he got burned. And I was like, you know what? He will never do that again, ever. For as long as he owns his team, ever. Right?
Yeah.
He'll never do it. And that brings me to the Doug point. I continue to say it. What other teams were lined up to interview Doug Peterson? What other interviews did Doug Peterson have? Jeffrey Lurie picked the next best thing to Andy Reid in the sense of a yes guy, a puppet in the organization that would just go along and do whatever he wanted him to do. And that's why we have Doug. And that's why he's not going anywhere. And that's why Howie's not going anywhere. And it's an absolute joke. It's a joke because, and Phil, you run a business, I run a business, and I know right now that if I had 4 people under me, and for 3 years they lost me revenue, they lost me money, they lost me respect, they were gone 2 years ago.
3 weeks ago, they'd be 3 weeks they'd be fired on that.
So I don't this is not a good business decision for Howie Roseman, man. I mean,
you think about it. So I compared, the Joe Banner to the Howie Roseman, the protege to the protege. It's a perfect analogy. The Andy Reid to his protege, Doug Peterson. I mean, This is basically until Doug Peterson has a protege to take over for him, or until Howie Roseman has a protege that that Jeffrey Lurie's confident in taking over. We're just going to stay with this little train of people here. We're just going to tinker with the parts that work around it, and that's it.
Yeah.
I agree.
It all comes back to Jeffrey Lurie.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah. Who's been quiet, by the way. You haven't seen Jeff speak. The gold standard. Where's the gold standard at? We haven't heard him speak one bit this entire year.
Yeah, and I wanted to kind of hit on what Al said here. You can keep Howie, just get a GM. I heard what Rube from NBC He was talking on WIP, and he kind of talked about this, and it kind of hit home with me. We could do that. Jeffrey Lurie could do that to Howie, but Howie enjoys picking the players. Like, he enjoys that. That's the part he likes. He likes making these contracts. He likes signing these guys, bringing the hype and getting the credit. He likes that. So he's not going to willingly just give that up. Any pool that he has with Jeffrey Lurie, which is a lot, he's going to exhaust it. And you're going to see that over the next couple of years, whether it changes or not. It'll start to become more clear, I would say, if Howie's not learning. You hope that Howie will just all of a sudden learn and do things different this offseason. The probability of that is concerning. I highly doubt that. But yeah, I think, Al hit another point here. Same thing with Doug, just get an OC that calls plays. I think they're going to force him to do that now. I think Doug's a little different from Howie. I think that he has very minimum power compared to Howie. And, they're stripping Doug of everything, which is a good thing. That's what I said at the end of the season was, if we're going to keep Doug, then you have to get, a new or a fresh OC in here, a young, fresh mind to run that offense and call plays. But I think Doug does need relieved of his play calling duty so he can focus on the rest of the team. We saw struggles with discipline specifically all season, whether it's penalties. You heard the rumors about practice, just like this stuff with Carson Wentz, all the rumors that come out. It's the same with the rumors that come out about practice, all of that. It all gets leaked out somehow, and it's most likely there's some fire where there's smoke. So just the practice, I don't know how they're going to fix that. I don't know how Doug fixes his voice. Because, it's like you guys said about Jason Kelce, that whole spiel he gave, a little bit earlier before this last game here where we just totally forfeited. Doug basically stabbed, Jalen Hurts in the back last night, by taking him out of the game right there. And we can be happy about the pick, but Jalen Hurts is wondering, what's up, Doug? Like, do you not want me to go out here and win this game? And, Jason Kelce, it's like, if he was pondering coming back last night would have solidified, I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here and I'm going to go take care of my family. Like, screw this. And the list goes on of the players that could have an effect on. So, Doug, a lot of the stuff he's done this season has been inexcusable. He's looked unqualified, simply put. And, I was one of the morons before the season that was talking about him as a top 10 coach. I was complaining that he was number 10.
You guys remember that?
I would take it now. I would take number 15. I would take 20 at this point.
There's a report at the beginning of the season. I think it was like CBS Sports ranked like the top 10 coaches.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about.
Sean McVay and Shanahan. All these coaches were ahead of Doug. I was right with you saying that this list is bogus because Doug won the Super Bowl. But now I'm the only guy. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I was wrong on that one.
Yeah,
100%.
I agree, man. Listen, I still think they caught lightning in a bottle that year, and I don't like to keep bringing up the Reich and DiFilippo thing because I know it gets old and it gets it gets a little stagnant. But there is some credibility to having the right people in your ear in order to make the proper adjustments, and that's we're seeing Doug exposed right now. Doug, maybe here I go, Al. I'll give you this. Maybe we can move Doug to the offensive coordinator spot, and we can get a new head coach. Because I would do that. I would do that. I wouldn't mind doing that. But because no matter who you bring in, it's not going to matter. Because Doug's not going to relinquish all his duties. And I have a feeling, I hate to say it on this show, but it's almost like what they did in Dallas. They let Kellen Moore call the plays, and he actually did a really good job. And then the following year, they came Jason Garrett. So maybe that's what we're kind of seeing going to happen, but listen, it's just Doug is not fit to put this team back on course. Maybe he's that kind of coach that you can throw him on a 15-win team and say, okay, go win the Super Bowl. But, facing adversity, Doug is not the guy to face adversity. And, Scotty, you were exactly right. I was thinking that last night about, what message are you sending to Jalen Hurts? What message are you sending to veterans? And also, what message are you saying to number one coaches around the NFL that you may want to be a part of your staff and players that are free agents that may want to come here and sign. I mean, this has a tremendous domino effect that people are not even looking at, aside from losing the game. I mean, there's a lot of dominoes to fall from that unfortunate and irresponsible decision by Doug Peterson.
Yeah, and you hit it. I mean, coming into the show, but, after we talk through it, it does sound like a dumbass idea.
You got it.
I'm just thinking about our team, how that makes our team feel. And, I just look at guys like Slay and Brandon Graham and those guys that were playing out there last night. It's like, that's a slap in the face. It's like, here's your wasted season. You'll end it with this wasted game as well. Like slap you right across the face. Welcome to Philly, Darius Slay. You're going to see the same stuff you saw in Detroit, baby. Yeah. Welcome. Exactly. So, I get it. I get it, man. We can kind of close the show out here. Expectations for the offseason. I'm sure we will dive into this more and more as we get through the playoffs and get closer to the actual offseason. I'm just going to give you guys, a list of some pending free agents. We can kind of bounce around from there and then kind of end the show like that. So, of course, you got Jason Peters. You're hoping that he just retires, right?
I was wrong on that, Phil. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Is this thing on here? Can we get that? Can we bring up the old foot? When we had the bye week show for All About the Birds, we pulled up all our most embarrassing clips from the preview show. I need a clip of you on Jason Peters for this moment right now.
I love it.
So we got Jalen Mills, Nate Sudfeld, Alex Singleton, Nikel Roby-Coleman, Vinny Curry, Duke Riley, Corey Clement. We got our punter, Cameron Johnson, Boston Scott, Nate Jerry, Greg Ward, LeBlanc, Richard Rogers. There's a couple more guys there. Any of those guys that you actually want back, who would they be? Just a short list, maybe.
Want back or need back? Like how do I put it? We could literally get none of those guys back, and I would not lose sleep over it. None of them are difference makers if we want to win next year. But the thing is, some of those guys will be cheap enough on one-year deals next year to come back, at least keep some stability on the defense. And if we're not trying to win 12 games or a Super Bowl next year, then there's a reason to bring some of them back. But I would not feel bad. As Richard's saying, let them all go. Yeah, I mean, I won't lose sleep over losing one of those names you just named.
I don't know. I think you have a good point about this is going to be a rebuilding process. And listen, one of the biggest problems we have was obviously on all facets of the game, but special teams, and you need guys to play special teams. And usually, that is a signal of how bad you drafted as well, because most of your rookies are special teamers. And if your special team sucks, that means the talent that you drafted kind of sucks too, right? So guys like Duke Riley, I think you can bring back as a special teams guy. Right? Alex Singleton, dude has a heart like Rudy. Okay, he's right. He does. It reminds me of Rudy. He's not going to be very good, but he's going to ball out as hard.
Try hard,
right? And it's not his fault. He's small. It's not his fault. I mean, he's doing the best he can. So I think he could be like kind of a situational guy and a special teamer. I would bring back Greg Ward. I think
Greg Ward's a guy I'd bring back.
Listen, I like what he brings. Fourth wide receiver, third wide receiver there. And
I know
Phil's going to hate this.
He doesn't hate him, but
Jalen Mills, you got to bring back Jalen. Listen, I will tell you one thing. Jalen Mills played bad this year because he was out of position. He is not a safety. Okay? He's not a. You have to have awareness and you have to understand. Listen, when he was a second corner, he's not a number one corner. But I feel, though, he can play the second corner role or even a nickel spot. He can play on this team. If you listen, you keep Slay, obviously. You draft a corner and you bring back Mills. I don't want Avonte Maddox. We have no idea. Can the kid play or not? No clue. Right? No clue. But I think you bring back Jalen Mills. I have no problem bringing it back.
So here's the thing. I got 2 names there to touch on there that you brought up. First, Jalen Mills, since it's the last thing you said there. Jalen Mills maybe as a 2 or 3 corner. Yeah, the number 2 corner, your first corner with an injury. I don't know if he could do the slot or not because he's not really good enough tackler for the slot.
That's true.
But Jalen Mills coming back depends on the system you're running, whoever your new defensive coordinator is. If you're the rumors of I forget his name now off the top of my head, the defensive line coach, that he might be a front runner who basically has been working under Jim Schwartz for all these years to take over. That means he's going to run the same system that Jim Schwartz did. So Jalen Mills,
man, they better not.
Not, man. Come on.
That's not
better not, man. Oh my God.
That's going to let him, play. He's not a press corner. He bites on those double moves too much. So if you're going to play, you got to have a coordinator that, works with your GM to get the right players and the right system and everything matched up. So that's the problem with Jalen Mills. I'm okay you bring him back as a safety or as a cornerback if it's in the right system. And that's that. And the other thing you say, Alex Singleton and some of these guys, so that's the problem with Howie. When you draft poorly and your big-time free agents don't hit, your backups and your special teamers are forced to start. So some of those names that you're saying, like Alex Singleton and Taylor and all, yeah, you can bring them back and all, but that's if the rest of the team around them is better.
Right,
and,
absolutely.
These they're not like Alex Singleton. Didn't he lead the team in tackles this year? I'm pretty sure he did. He should not lead your team in tackles.
No.
I give him – you said Hart.
120 tackles.
Oh my God!
The guy grinded. He's 27, making his first regular playing time in the NFL. He played in every minor league football league there is out there to get to this point. But he should not be a starting linebacker.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, if you're going to put a better team around all these guys, bring them back as backup. Sure, you need special teamers and cheap options to fill out your roster. But if you're counting on these guys to be regular pieces, no, thank you.
No, I agree with you. None of them are regular pieces. All to me, the biggest guy I think would be Mills at a number 2 or 3 spot, and that's it. Only because you're going to need to fill out a roster. So there's no reason. At least these guys have played a little bit.
They're more just like transition pieces.
Yeah, that's all.
Greg Ward, I do like
him.
I think he played on a 1-year, $4 million contract. It's not going to cost much more than that to bring him back for one more year, and that's the kind of guy you need.
Who's that? Jalen Mills?
Jalen Mills, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
But I did want to just touch on Ward. I know you're not a big Ward guy, Phil.
I like Ward.
He's
the QB's best friend, though.
Understand me on Greg Ward. Greg Ward's another guy that is not a starting wide receiver on a winning football team.
He's a 4th wide receiver.
He's a 4th wide receiver. He is Mr. 2.7 yards per catch guy. 30 catches for 57 yards,
Listen, he's your Randall Cobb, right? There's nothing wrong with that. If you have 3 guys ahead of him that can play, there's nothing wrong with having Randall Cobb as your 4th wide receiver.
Exactly. But coming into this year, at some point, we expected a lot more than that out of him. And a lot of people did. And everybody's talking about Carson's security blanket. Carson has so much confidence in him. What does he do to instill that? He does catch everything.
He does.
It's only 2-yard plays most of the time.
People talked about him being the next Antonio Brown. Remember that?
People think
that was
ludicrous.
Antonio Brown.
My hate is people misunderstand my Greg Ward hate. There's no hate there. Just it's a overvalue of what his skill set is.
He has like his own hive and everything, so he gets really overhyped for those like 5-yard catches. But he is I would say he's a valuable piece. He's a piece that makes the quarterback comfortable, and I think that's what I like about him.
Don't let him punt return
quarterback. Anymore. No. You guys think they'll bring Nate Jerry back?
Oh my God, another one, man! Are you kidding me? Like, we got to do a show. You just think about the unders. I'll say the undersized white linebackers that we've drafted over the friggin' years, like Andy Studebaker. Like, think about these names. Nate Garrett. These guys can't play, man. Like, seriously, I don't understand. You're bringing in Mark Semino again. Like, think about it. Like, come on, man.
The wrong Matthews brother.
What's that?
The wrong Matthews brother.
Casey.
Right. Yeah, Casey Matthews, great one. Like, we always get the wrong guy in Philadelphia. Always. Damn.
It never fails, man. And then I guess the last one I wanted to ask you guys about was just Boston Scott. How do you guys feel about him?
I like Boston Scott.
I do like Boston. I just think he can't be the second guy.
Yeah,
he needs to be like the third guy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, if you could get Boston Scott 5 touches a game, because if you're a smart coach and you're running the ball 30 times a game, you give 20-21 to, Miles Sanders, you give 5 or 6 to your backup and maybe 3 or 4 to Boston Scott. That's how you formulate an offense. And he would relish in that role. He really would. I do think so. The thing is, like Phil says, and Scotty, we get, Adam just said Kiko Alonso. I love it. That's another one, right? I'm telling you.
McCoy.
Right. What's wrong? Oh my gosh, another one. Like, think about it. What's wrong with us, man? It's crazy. But we get too excited about guys. Like when Boston Scott had one go, he's not an every down back. He's not even a backup. He's a number 3 guy on any team, which is good.
Could be said for Clement. You know what I mean? He's living off that Super Bowl, like Phil said.
And he's
a New Jersey guy. He's got character.
Exactly.
You say Boston Scott run the ball 4 or 5 times, and if you have a proper offensive line and a line that's coached properly, he'd be great in a screen game.
Yes,
that can work. But because of our offensive line issues this year and last year, we had no screen game. So, we don't even know truly what Boston Scott's capable of because he's been misused for the last year and a half. So,
yeah, I like Scott. You definitely bring him back. You either sign somebody in free agency or you draft a solid back, because let's face it, you can draft guys. And if you draft the right guys, and we can name a lot of running backs 3rd, 4th, 5th rounders starting in the NFL, let alone being a backup. So we could definitely get a productive guy if we scheme out the right guy.
I think that's a good point, Tony, because I think that's something that might creep up on us over these next couple of years. Is when it's contract time for Miles Sanders, as much as we've been doing all that hyping up, that's going to hype up that contract number. Yep. And you do not pay running backs, man. That's one of the golden rules in the NFL that I feel like you got to live by, especially, with his injury history over the first 2 seasons. He's been great when he plays, but he's had these hamstring injuries that – really worry me for his longevity. And if he's able to be used, like they say, like Christian McCaffrey, and we got to stop comparing our players to these all pros. Yeah. Fulgham was getting called like TO or some crazy shit.
People just get crazy, man.
I was selling Fulgham shirts on my website, so hey, it's okay. I mean,
you had to, man. People were buying in.
Absolutely.
Let's not talk about selling merchandise. We're going to go in a different direction on this show.
I know there's some interesting opinions on that out there.
Jalen Hurts, but we'll go to something else.
Oh my goodness! But man,
I want to say one thing with the Miles Sanders. And I'll let you wrap up. He's on 2 years, so we still got him for another year or two. Yeah. But who's to say he's even going to want to stay here? If Doug Peterson doesn't use him properly, he knows on an open market with a team that actually uses the running game the proper way, he might have even more value out there and be able to get a second big contract and whatnot if he's used the right way. So if this coaching staff doesn't use him the right way, he might not even want that big contract from us.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Absolutely.
How do you guys, I guess one last one before I close it out here. Dallas Goedert, I know he's looking at an extension here soon. How do you feel about that?
I like Dallas. When healthy, there you go. He's got the chart. When healthy, he has proved to be a very productive red zone threat. Yeah. And he really developed his yards after the catch, which is something I didn't think he would be able to do. So I'm excited about Dallas Goedert for if he can stay healthy for an entire season, which is a big deal. But I think he's very capable of being that number 1 tight end. Yeah,
he's very comparable to Miles Sanders. These little nagging injuries that haven't given us a full 16 games of the player yet. Yeah. So if he's healthy for 16 games, I mean, I don't want to trade Zach Ertz. I said it before the season. He's only 30. I struggled coming to grips with the trading of Zach Ertz. Now at this point, I am on board with it after the season's over. But if you're trading Zach Ertz, you better find a solid number 2 tight end, whether it's Richard Rodgers, who showed a little bit of glimpse here or there, or drafting somebody. You better find someone else because Dallas does not stay healthy, or at least we haven't seen it yet.
Well, this comes full circle, right? And again, we started this show out talking about Howie Roseman and why he shouldn't be back and why he should be held accountable. Well, Zach Ertz to me and Dallas Goedert is the complete reason on why he lacks the ability of foresight as a GM. Because 2 years ago, when you drafted Dallas Goedert, when you bring him in, 2 years ago when Zach Ertz was declining extensions, you had to foresee that Zach Ertz was not going to re-sign here. And then you watch last year at Austin Hooper signs and breaks records for tight end guaranteed money. Exactly.
Yeah.
You had to think right there, we're not signing it. I don't want to sign 30-year-old Zach Ertz to a $50 million contract.
Yeah.
So you just completely missed the boat on getting assets back for him that you're not going to be able to get now. And again, bad GM move. Bad GM move.
You could probably have gotten a second or a third round draft pick for Zach Ertz before the season. Actually, who was not Hooper? Who was the other tight end that got traded? Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst, yeah.
And he got traded for a second round pick.
Yes.
Coming into this season, you would have ranked Zach Ertz ahead of Hayden Hurst.
They declined. I think it was Chicago.
Yeah.
They declined an offer that was giving them a second or a third round pick for Zach Ertz. They declined it. Again.
Now, what are you going to get now? A fifth round pick for Zach Ertz?
If you're lucky, because they know you got to
because of the money involved. Fifth, sixth, seventh round pick.
That's
shame.
And that's the thing. I remember maybe week 2 or week 3 thinking, it might be time to sell it before the ship goes down. You know what I mean? Because they had already had that tiff in week 1, where he was only targeted like 3 times. He was furious, getting in arguments at practice. So, right there is when you sell. The ship is burning. Get out of there before it sinks. And like you said, Tony, the ship sailed. Now that we're sitting at the end of this season, and they didn't even make a point to show his worth.
It's crazy.
They didn't even try to get it worth out of him to show it. So, once again, no favors there. And, I thought that was funny today with how he said he had to be the bad cop there. Well, it's about time, right? You're the good cop too many times before that. You shouldn't even have got the chance. But do you think that maybe even Zach Ertz has played himself out of a contract so bad that we could get him for a team-friendly deal at all? Or do you think it's still going to be too high?
I think the word fractured comes into play again.
Yeah.
It's a relationship thing. And, you see a guy emotional up at the stand today. I mean, they were true emotions. The last guy I remember that had that kind of emotion was Brian Dawkins. And for lack of a better word, Brent Selleck, because he's like one of the ultimate Eagles of all time. So, he felt it. He understood it. And I know, again, he did a ton of stuff in the community. I know guys close to me that he worked with, that he brought people into his family, high school coaches, and things that normal players don't normally do. So he was invested, like Connor Barwin was invested in this community. So his relationship is fractured. I don't think there's any way at all he comes back. Yeah,
because I think he's been embarrassed, and
yes,
and it was so evident today in the press conference that. He knows it's over. I mean, like you said, Tony, like you said, Phil, those guys standing out there on the field last night.
Yep.
If you read the room, I mean, these guys, it was their last time at the link. I mean, it's obvious. And, it's kind of where we are at. It's a good way to end the show tonight. Things are changing. There's an era that's over. And there's going to be a lot of changes this offseason. We already know, most likely Alshon, most likely Djax. Those guys should be gone. And a few others as well. I don't know. I love BG, but that's one of them things. He just had a monster season. If you are rebuilding, you don't want to waste his time either. I don't know. I love BG though. I love his leadership and what he could do for young guys as well. So it's hard for me to sell BG. He's a lot.
I think he'll be here. Yeah, I think he'll be here. He kind of alluded to that. He said, listen, whether they mentioned that the other day, and he said, listen, I'm here for the long haul, whether it's helping young guys work and learn the game or winning, I'm here. So I think he's that kind of guy. He's invested. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. How about Cox? What's your read on Cox?
That's an interesting one because
he's not living up to that contract.
No,
but again, you see in that Dallas game when he's out a significant amount of time, he does a lot of things you don't see on the box score that holds that defense together. I mean, his value is a little higher than some people think.
I think so too, and I think today was a telltale sign. Now they did restructure Alshon and Malik Jackson's deal, and I think a lot of people feel like it's because they're going to move on for both of those guys. No, they're going to move on from Alshon. But the thing is, if they can get a solid partner for Fletcher Cox, they restructure Malik Jackson so him and Hargrave can be the defensive tackles of 2021. And that's exactly why they did that.
I agree with that 100%. And like I said, some people would classify Fletcher Cox in that Zach Ertz category of trade value. No. Fletcher Cox is still a commodity in this league. Again, he doesn't have 10 tackles a game and 7 sacks. And someone said, well, he's not Aaron Donald. Well, no one is Aaron Donald. But he's in that next class of defensive tackles. And, someone that's really close to a Super Bowl title will make a trade if he's available for Fletcher Cox.
And all they got to do is look down the pike, man. Look at Buffalo. Sean McDermott would take him in a second.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So that's a team that's built properly.
Exactly. Absolutely.
For sure. I mean, I love Cox, but you guys hit it right on the head again. And I thought Malik Jackson was one of those guys that showed he wants to be here. He played down the stretch. I mean, even last night, you saw him towards the end of the game still out there, hitting people. And that's one thing I like that he brings to the team. He brings a certain toughness and nastiness to the defense that, not a lot of guys show anymore. So I did like that about Malik Jackson. But we'll see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to be surprised a few times this offseason. If changes are happening, we should be surprised, I would think. But, what a miserable season.
What a
miserable
that sums it up.
I tried being sad that it was ending last night, but it was more of a relief. I mean, you're watching bad football. Similar to what I was watching in the playoffs last year with the Sixers, bad basketball. And this was bad football this year. I mean, regardless of talent, the scheme, it was just ugly to watch. And I'm hoping that next year we can just have like a young, exciting team, even if it's only 6 or 7 wins, something to build on, because these NFC East teams are building. Washington looks great. If they can get any type of quarterback in there, they're going to be good, and then they're going to be a real contender. And Dallas seemed to have picked up some steam down the stretch here this year. I know they lost to the Giants, of course, but the Giants they weren't. They look better than us. So. It's the future is unclear, and it's kind of uncomfortable almost. But at least we got the Sixers, man.
Yeah, exactly. Thank God.
We got Sixers basketball.
Who thought we would say that, right? Who thought we would say that?
But thank you guys once again for coming on the show, guys. This was a really fun one. It was a great way to end the season and cap it off. I'm glad I finally got you on the show, Tony. And
it's been great, man.
We always have a great time. If you guys just want to, plug yourself in one more time, your podcast with the stuff you guys got going on, go ahead one more time before I get you guys out of here.
Okay. Phil, I'll go. Catch us tomorrow night at Heat Ratio Sports. Both these guys are great guys. Help me out. Do some great things for the network. We just signed on 2 new shows today. We're going to have an NHL show. We have an NCAA football and basketball show. So we're looking towards 7-day-a-week programming, which give you guys something to watch every single night. Tomorrow, got a really good interview lined up with Alexa Ross from Rochester, New York. She covers the Buffalo Bills, and she's a Temple girl. So looking forward to hearing her talk about Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills, and talking about the Philadelphia Eagles as well. So that'll be up on the Heat Ratio side as well.
Nice.
With a lineup like that tomorrow night, it's going to be one of those 2-hour episodes for you tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Tomorrow night, Heat Ratio Live, 8 o'clock. Tune in. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a long episode.
I mean, now we're just competing directly tomorrow night because not tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Thinking Wednesday. I'm all thrown off. I'm still in Florida in my mind.
Well, no, it's Wednesday. Phil, Wednesday, everybody gets the double team, right? We get the fantasy show. And then you go right to All About the Birds, right?
Exactly. So Wednesday is 9:15. I honestly don't know which direction we are going to take with our Wednesday night All About the Birds show because I don't know. We can all vent and bitch and moan some more, or we can try to come up with a different plan for the show. We haven't figured that out yet, but Wednesday nights All About the Birds. We just wrapped up our first season. First year doing it. It's such a disappointing season to have your first year as a podcast host and all, but it is what it is. Hopefully it only gets better from here. So yeah, we got that at 9:15 on Wednesday night. Chip and Johnny and I. So yeah, I appreciate, you said, us helping you. I know I speak for Scotty. Tony's the man. Tony helps.
Yeah,
Tony's the one
help, man.
Up for success up here.
We're all family, man. I say that.
Yeah.
Al knows that. I talk about that, man. It's a family. It's a family affair. It's like P. Diddy used to say back in the day. It's a family affair, man.
And that's what I'll say, thank God that I had you guys this season, to bounce ideas, talk about it with, because I know me as well as many other Eagles fans, as well as you guys, we would be going insane if we couldn't express this stuff. So once again, guys, thanks for joining the show, Phil, Tony. That's going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks Philly Sports. Be sure to check me out, of course. Subscribe on YouTube and any other podcast mainstreaming services that you use. And, of course, go follow me on Twitter at Scotty Drowned and the sports page at ST Philly Sports 1. That's going to be it for tonight, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.